Just to remind Kenyans is that come the 12th, that is next week, none other than Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi is going to be presenting a 4.3 trillion shillings budget for the year 2025-2026. The question is, what is in that particular budget for you as Wanjiko? At a time when a government is actually saying that there's no introduction of new taxes. But does this then mean life is going to be more affordable? That's a big question, right? We'll continue unpacking what is in the budget on our business desk here. KBC Channel 1, just to bring you up to speed and familiarize with that particular proposed budget. The proposed budget has also been highlighted for one reason, and this has to do with Rose Njeri, who was apparently apprehended and currently is facing charges on what is termed as a hackers bill that is being used to seek justice. The government is seeking justice using the hackers bill, saying that she is in breach of the law. But is she? This is a question that has been posed looking at the amendments that are being pushed, especially in Parliament, to give the NC4 more powers. What does this mean to freedom of speech? I'm sure that is an item, or rather an area of conversation that Victor is going to be engaging his guest this morning, that is Mr. Bosire, on how the government and the fourth estate, that is the media, can coexist without much acrimony that we have been witnessing in the recent past. With that, let's start off with stories that have been making headlines. Just to remind you that you can get us on our website too for further details. That is www.kbc.co.ke. Now, we start off with matters, as we have mentioned. Software developer Rose Njeri, who is facing charges related to cybercrime, has been released on a personal bond of 100,000 shillings. Njeri was arrested after she created a website where Kenyans were to submit their views on the Finance Bill 2025. Her defense team, led by former Chief Justice David Maraga and Kalonzo Musyoka, argued the intended charges leveled against her lacked clear legal foundation and infringed upon her constitutional rights. The court has reserved its ruling for the 20th of June.
Software developer and digital activist Rose Njeri's arraignment at the Milimani's Magistrate Court came after a 3-day detention at Pangani Police Station caused massive uproar. The Director of Public Prosecution through Senior Counsel Juma Victor Witi and Wanjiru Aweru informed the court that Njeri's action disrupted the normal functioning of parliamentary systems.
Charge or information shall contain and shall be sufficient if it contains a statement of the specific offense.
The prosecution urged the court to allow the suspect take plea on charges alleged to related cybercrime offenses as per the charge sheet.
Questions of alleged breaches of fundamental rights and freedoms, very limited under Section 8.2. Whether that act or statute gives the court jurisdiction to hear criminal cases, including the one proposed to be instituted by the impugned charges before you.
However, a defense team comprising retired Chief Justice David Maraga, Dr. John Kaminwa, former LSK President Eric Theuri, among dozens others opposed her being charged, stating the charges are invalid and not known in law.
Public participation can be achieved in very many ways. And what Rose has done is to bring it to the entire public who may wish to get electronic copies to know what is in the bill.
This charge should be thrown out. You bring that shock to those who are in the power. Let them not take you for granted.
Any person who sent such an email can be the subject of such a charge.
The court was further told that the charge sheet is an abuse of court process, both locally and globally, and should therefore be dismissed.
Harassment of citizens, and in this case, Rose Njeri has caught the imagination not just of the country, but the whole world.
Trial Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo has reserved his ruling for 20th June. Njeri was arrested last Friday at her home in Nairobi.
I don't know why she has been arrested. I hope it is not in connection with the finance bill, because really we are able to engage that young girl. I know she was really trying to bring out disinformation.
Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning Kenya.
Count number 1 is...
We need to go to
Set the date of June 20th. This is going to be a landmark ruling. Remember, there's been call to even review the Cyber Crimes Act there with some few amendments that are likely to give the NC4 more powers there. Kenyans saying that their right to speech is highly likely to be infringed upon come that particular bill. Now, calls for the government to gazette Career Valley as an insecurity-prone area resonated during the burial of slain priest Father Alois Cheriot Abet in Nandi County. Father Cheriot was shot dead by bandits in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet County a fortnight ago. As Timothy Kipnusu reports, both the religious and political leaders have called on the government to leave no stone unturned in ensuring that Father Alois' killers face the full force of the law.
Somber mood engulfed the burial of the slain priest Father Alois Cheriot Abet in Nandi County on Tuesday. Mourners who converged to pay their last respects to the slain priest urged the security apparatus to do a thorough investigation to ensure all those involved in the heinous act face the music.
Hii kuwa Father Alois sio aliua Father Alois kimakosa, ni kwa sababu walikuwa wamekuwa cornered. Wamezuiwa kuiba ng'ombe, wamezuiwa kuumiza watu wale wengine, sasa wakarudi sasa uchogozi.
Hao walifu ikutana na sheria. Mimi sitasema kwamba wauawe, sitasema hivyo, lakini wapatikane na sheria ifanye kazi yake.
Led by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, the leaders at the same time urged the government to declare Kerio Valley as a disturbed area.
Hiyo meneneo la Kerio Valley lazima ikuwe gazetted as disturbed area so that operation can be done. Kama ile ilifanyika Mount Elgon kufukuza SDLF pale, operation disturbed area.
Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat used the occasion to assure the family that justice will be served.
Nataka niwaombe nyinyi wote mtusamee na tunawahakikishia hii kifo ya father inaweza kuwa turning point ya hiyo vita iko Kerio Valley. Wengi wetu tujawahi lala. Kama mimi nimekuwa governor tangu niwe governor, nilienda kwa president siku ya kwanza. Wakati huyu governor anaomba factory, mimi huwa naomba bunduki ya KPR na risasi, mimi naomba kambi ya police, kambi ya jeshi. Hiyo vitu yote ndio mimi naombanga tu nikienda mahali.
Bandits hawa pale Kerio Valley ni ile kila mtu amesema they have crossed all the red lines. Kuanzia watoto, akina mama, wazee, sasa wamefikia mapadri. Hii kifo cha Father Alois Abet tumeweza kujua, na mimi sikuwa nimejua hii mpaka ile siku nilienda Chesongoji pale.
It is very unfortunate that the person in charge of security, waziri anatoka pale Elgeyo Marakwet. Now they say charity begins at home. If you cannot fix the security from your home, how can you fix the security of the country?
Takes us back to the still unsolved death, or rather murder, of Father Kaiser in unclear circumstances. We're still waiting years on to find out what was the motive behind his murder and who are the perpetrators. We hope that the death of Father Alois does not end up in this similar particular trend. Now, President William Ruto has issued a directive to allocate 20% of government-constructed affordable housing units to uniformed officers, including the Kenya Defence Forces and the police. The head of state made the announcement during the launch of the Central Bank of Kenya Police Housing Complex. He said the directive is aimed at providing long-term stability for officers who often face housing challenges, particularly in high-cost urban areas where the government housing has historically been inadequate.
President William Ruto on Tuesday launched the Central Bank of Kenya Police Housing Complex at Industrial Area, Nairobi County. It is here the President Ruto announced a major policy shift aimed at improving housing for Kenya's security services.
As part of our policy program, 20% of whole housing units being developed under affordable housing across the country will be ring-fenced for members of our disciplined forces from the military, the National Police Service, the Kenya prisons, and the National Youth Service.
This housing structure that you're opening today is giving dignity to the police force. People who we expect, they take care of our lives, they protect us, but we've never accorded them the kind of dignity that they deserve for the work that they do.
The announcement paving way for uniformed officers, including the Kenya Defence Forces, National Police Service, Kenya Prison Service, and the National Youth Service to get adequate housing. The head of state noted that the government was also introducing flexible and subsidized financing options to ease home ownership for officers under the program.
These officers will benefit from affordable financing through single-digit interest rates, as low as 3% for those who will buy social housing, 6% for those who will buy affordable housing, and 9% for those who will want to buy the high market houses. In addition, these officers will also benefit from what currently we are developing. Aside from what you see in this compound, through the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are delivering institutional housing for disciplined forces across the country.
The housing complex comprises fully furnished 200 two-bedroom and 10 three-bedroom apartments. Ruto said the finished units will provide dignified and decent homes for police officers assigned to the Central Bank of Kenya. The housing project is a result of a unique memorandum of understanding between the CBK and the National Police Service.
That particular directive by the president has set tongues wagging, especially on social media, with Kenyans questioning the motivation for government to move that direction and saying that it was not fair, given that the housing, affordable housing, everyone under PAYE is actually getting deducted, or rather there's a house levy of 1.5% on their gross earnings. Some saying that it should be come first, first come, first served, as those who are registered under the Bomayang. What is your take? Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. What is your take in regard to that particular directive by President William Ruto on matters affordable housing? That is 20% of these particular houses to go to the security apparatus in the country. Now, Kwale Governor Fatma Chani risks being surcharged 2 million shillings after making irregular payments to the Council of Governors to cover operational costs for the 2023 Devolution Conference held in Uasin Gishu County. Now, the county government made a contribution of 4 million shillings in total for the financial year 2023-2024, 2 million shillings to cover the cost of Kilifi participating in the conference, an additional 2 million shillings for the operational costs already catered for under the Intergovernmental Relations Act. Senators have recommended to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, to recover the 2 million paid to the council.
The debate surrounding the county governors making irregular payments to the Council of Governors has once again resurfaced.
350 million to deliver a governor's residence. What is special about this house?
It's worth it. It's worth the amount, even though...
Governor, it's worth it when there's medicine in hospitals. It's worth it when your food processing plant is complete. It's worth it when your markets are functional.
This time it was Kwale County on the spot.
And I thought that's where you are hiding your COG contributions.
This is after the county government made a contribution of 4 million shillings in total for the financial year 2023-2024 towards the devolution conference in Uasin Gishu.
And you paid 4 million for those services.
I've not paid for Homa Bay.
No, Governor, leave Homa Bay out of this. And what is that?
That is what is used to run, support council governors.
That's operational expense, which is clearly provided for.
While the senators did not take issue with the 2 million shillings paid to cover the cost of the county participating in the conference, the Auditor General raised queries of an additional 2 million shillings expenditure to foot the council's operation cost already catered for in the Intergovernmental Relations Act.
Our problem is contribution for operational costs of the COG. That should be borne by the Consolidated Fund.
The Moses Kajwang-led committee has since recommended to the anti-graft body EACC to recover irregular contributions made to the council within 60 days of adoption of their report.
So I think to avoid wasting time, we'll just be asking EACC. Patricia, we had a conversation on how to give effect to this. We need to have a discussion on how to give effect to this recovery.
The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, had recommended the stoppage of the irregular payments to the council and any governor violating the recommendations be surcharged. Further, the county governor was also at pains to explain why she requires 350 million shillings to construct her residence.
A palatial residence for the governor. Is it fair?
We have to conclude the governor's residence. It has so many things. Apart from the house, it has a conference, an office. It has so many.
The project, which was estimated at 149 million shillings initially, exceeded the Salaries and Remuneration Commission ceiling of 45 million shillings.
Because it sounds immoral to spend 350 million on the residence of a governor.
County has not paid for my house.
No, I'm just saying.
And even now, I still live in my house.
If the governor of Kwale lives in a house of 350 million, and the house you live in is sufficient, right?
Yes, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's enough.
In fact, I don't even want to live.
So have you ever asked your predecessor what was the thinking behind this development of 350 million?
I don't think that was the appropriate reaction there, laughing at that question that was asked in regard to whether the governor there considered asking her predecessor what was the thought process behind the 350 million construction of a governor's residence down there in Kwale. We'll continue keeping tabs on that and see if the recommendations are going to hold with the EACC in regard to Fatuma Chani there and matters of misappropriation of funds and such. Now, People's Liberal Party leader Martha Karua has disclosed that human rights organizations will seek justice for activists Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire in Uganda at the East African Court of Justice and African Court of Human and People's Rights for atrocities committed by Tanzanian authorities. She called on the African Union Commission to form a commission of inquiry to probe the matter.
A day after activist Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire of Uganda narrated their ordeal in the hands of Tanzanian authorities while in detention incommunicado, People's Liberal Party leader Martha Karua says human rights organizations will seek justice at the East African Court of Justice, African Court on Human and People's Rights, and other avenues.
I know the East African Law Society is filing an action against the authorities in Tanzania, in the first instance, in the Tanzanian courts. We'll be suing in the African court and on any other site possible internationally.
Karua also calling on the African Union Commission to launch a probe into the matter.
We call upon the African Union through the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the UN Human Rights Council to establish a commission of inquiry into human rights abuses in Tanzania, in Uganda, and Kenya. The people we have mentioned affected are just a tip of the iceberg.
Karua saying persons involved in committing the atrocities against the duo, including torture and sexual assault, must be held to account.
We urge you to impose targeted sanctions on individuals, not on countries, on individuals responsible for enforced disappearances, torture and suppression of civic space. And they're known. In Tanzania, at least we now know.
She, however, raised concerns over the silence of the international community, the United Nations and the African Union over abuse of human rights.
This is no longer a Tanzanian issue. It's no longer a Ugandan or a Kenyan issue. It's an East African issue, and it's also an African issue.
Further, the PLP leader condemned the arrest of Rose Njeri for developing a program that aids public participation on Finance Bill 2025.
Just imagine the irony that today was the start of the public participation on the 2025 Finance Bill. Yet, Rose Njeri was arrested because of providing space online for Kenyans to robustly participate.
Keeping tabs on that. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale says spare parts to fix broken down cancer treatment machines are expected to arrive in the country within the week. Duale, who toured the Kenyatta National Hospital to assess the situation, says the government is committed to ensuring cancer patients access treatment and plans are underway to source extra cancer treatment machines. Meanwhile, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi on Tuesday assumed office as the Chief Executive Officer of the Social Health Authority, where she vowed to ensure no Kenyan is left behind in accessing quality health care.
On Tuesday, Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale toured Kenyatta National Hospital to assess the state of affairs at the facility following numerous complaints triggered by the breakdown of the Liner cancer machine. The CSO visited various departments, including the Cancer Treatment Center, said the machine will be up and running as soon as the spare parts arrive in the country in the course of the week.
That machine is 10 years old, is at its lifespan. It was installed in 2015. We have talked to the vendor who is doing all that he can that by the end of this week, in the next 2 days, the spare will arrive, and we have a contingency for our patients in our other referral hospital.
Duale at the same time cautioned Level 6 hospitals against abuse of office and inefficiency.
I will not tolerate mismanagement, inefficiency, and abuse of public resources. Following my recent visit to Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital and the issues that were raised, I am putting all Level 6 hospitals, facilities on notice. Leadership and accountability must match the level of responsibility these institutions carry.
Meanwhile, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi assumed office as the Chief Executive Officer of the Social Health Authority following her appointment on the 1st of April 2025. She takes over from Robert Ingasira, who has been in acting capacity since November 2024, following the suspension of Elijah Washira. As she assumed office, she vowed to turn around SHA by, among other things, rebuilding trust through transparency and strengthening primary healthcare systems.
70% of us Kenyans actually access our services in dispensaries and health centers. 70% of us, very few of us trickle into the secondary level. And so one of the things we'll be doing in SHA, when you hear SHA, think of human-centered care, think of primary healthcare system.
On her first day, Mwangangi revealed that 13,000 Kenyans have already been onboarded to the Lipa SHA Pole Pole initiative launched 2 days ago by President William Ruto. Through this initiative, Kenyans with unpredictable incomes are said to benefit as they can pay premiums daily or monthly installments.
Whereby a chunk of your annual premium will expect you to pay for it, and then the remaining balance of that premium, you will be able to opt in to paying it either daily, monthly, weekly, for you to be able to actually get SHA.
So you have income in a year. You can easily pay 20,000 for your insurance for your family, but you can't get it today. We are giving you the opportunity so that you can get the premium in, so that we can pay and review that bone, a child who requires that bone marrow transplant, and even for you. And then you can pay this premium slowly.
Well, that puts a cap on Matters General News and ushers us to Matters Business. But before we take on Matters Business, I'd want to show you the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Unmasked faces in home buying scams. This points out to the matters of fraudulent cases that are coming up in the real estate, where some investors have paid up to 6 million shillings, but the houses are incomplete 6 years later. And just to read the kicker here is Kenyans in diaspora in particular are being lured into property investments back home only to later discover they sunk millions into bogus schemes. More depressing is the plight of retiring workers who believed they were investing in posh retirement homes only to find stalled structures in thickets. This is a developing story that a majority of media houses are focusing on across the country. And there are some names and mugshots that have already been published in this particular daily there. We have 3 persons of interest there. We have Patrick Mushoki, who is the managing director of Mahiga Homes Limited, that is accused of taking millions from investors without delivering houses. We have Egidio Kinyanjui, who is the managing director of Wilston Homes, who was a sales manager of Banda Homes that left investors in tears. I remember we had that story. We also have Peter Nyaga, the managing director of Certified Homes Limited, and was the chief executive officer at Mahiga Homes Limited. What has been your experience? You know, are you part of the victims? Remember, we are open to feedback. To business now on Matters Energy, as Kenya is set to import an additional 200 megawatts of power as it seeks to shore up capacity from Ethiopia in the coming month to bridge a power deficit. Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority Director General Daniel Kiptoo says a technical team has been dispatched to Ethiopia to negotiate the terms of the expanded power purchase agreement.
Kenya's installed electricity capacity stands at 3,243 megawatts, with an effective capacity of 3,030 megawatts. However, as of February 2025, the available capacity was 2,320 megawatts, barely exceeding the highest peak demand of 2,316 megawatts recorded in the same month. The small margin between peak demand and available capacity has seen the Ministry of Energy intensifying the push to lift the 3-year moratorium on onboarding new independent power producers.
This year we have 283 megawatts of a deficit in our mix. Our reserve margin sometimes is less than 5 megawatts, and this is a big challenge because because you have planned outages, because our power plants have to go out for maintenance sometimes, and also have unplanned maintenance.
Dr. Kiptoo says Kenya plans to import an additional 200 megawatts of electricity from Ethiopia to enhance reserve margin to the standard of 15%. to cushion the grid against potential disruptions.
It's an ongoing conversation. I think there was a team there a couple of weeks ago. The next level will be an engagement at the policy level. So really buying power from our neighboring countries is not necessarily a bad thing. But again, there's an issue of national security, which is an issue of energy security, that we need to be self-sustaining. But also Kenya needs to be able to develop its geothermal resource and all other resources and be able to export power into our neighboring countries.
He was speaking at the launch of the IPRA Research and Innovation Conference.
Now, that puts a cap just to remind you that there are plans by government to divert the monies, their draft regulations for the government to use a housing levy cash that is currently with the AG to construct schools, marketplaces, police posts, as well as hospitals. What's your take on that? This was a key highlight with the president's speech during the celebrations that we just had, Madaraka celebrations there. And now the labor union Kotu has opposed the diversion of funds to other projects, saying that this could lead to misuse. What is your take? As you ponder on that and get us on X at KBC Channel 1, the Pamoja countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, have expressed their commitment to delivering a successful African Nations Championship, CHAN, which is slated for the 2nd to the 30th of August this year. Speaking to the media in Nairobi, the three sports ministers said they will issue a Pamoja visa to ensure seamless movement of players and funds, as well as ensure exemption of taxes on equipment to be used during that particular tournament.
It's only 61 days left now before the 2025 edition of the African Nations Championship CHAN commences. The hosting countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, have stepped up their preparations towards hosting the $39 million tournament. Both nations have agreed to exempt tax on equipment to be used during the tournament. Led by Kenya's Cabinet Secretary in charge of sports, Salim Mvurya, the ministers reaffirmed their commitment to delivering a successful championship.
One of the areas that we looked at is the issue of visa that will allow the three countries to allow either fans or players. And therefore, what we have agreed as ministers in the three countries, we will be working with our other ministries in charge of immigration to ensure that we have a seamless visa entry requirements.
To Pamoja. When I talk about Pamoja, I mean Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. Please come and witness. And I'm very sure it will be the best competition in the history of CHAN.
Kenya is in Group A alongside two-time champions Morocco, DR Congo, Angola and Zambia in the 2024 African Nations Championship.
Mashindano haya pamoja na yote imetusaidia nchi za Afrika Mashariki sasa kuja na miundombinu ya michezo, sports infrastructure na miundombinu ya michezo ya aina yake, ambayo ina maana CHAN ikiisha, AFCON ikiisha, bado tuna uwezo wa kufanya mashindano mengine mengi.
DR Congo and Morocco lead with the most titles with 2 crowns each, while Senegal are the reigning champions, having won the title in 2022.
That officially puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Remember, June 20th, the court is going to pronounce itself in regard to the matter pertaining Rose and Jerry. June 20th, 2025. Save the date. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a pleasant day ahead.